from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello and welcome to the National News. We are coming to you live from the National News Studio. Together with Niket Karunaratna, I'm Dilanjali Ananda. And these are the top stories which are making headlines. The Advisory Committee extends 5 proposals to the National Economic Council. The Malwatu and Asgiri Mahanayaka Theros reiterate on the need of a sustainable national policy in granting relief to the people affected by the economic crisis. China reaffirms its commitment to continuously extend financial support to Sri Lanka. The Litro Gas Company says it has not increased gas prices. Ukraine rejects Russian army orders to vacate the Mariupol city. A grace period for registered tourist institutes to pay the tourism development tax. 132 persons killed in a plane crash in China. Now, as the top story, we have about the crisis, the economic crisis that as individuals, each and every one of us are experiencing. But to come up with solutions for this problem, there was an advisory committee, rather a National Economic Council appointed to come up with solutions. Further to help them, there is an advisory committee which was also appointed. And today, for the first time, they have presented the proposals.
The President has appointed a 16-member advisory committee to extend assistance to the National Economic Council, appointed to find solutions to the existing economic problems on the 15th of this month. The proposals include the immediate appointment of a technical committee comprising of officials of the Central Bank and the Treasury to make proposals on international financial facilities. Also on the appointment of a financial advisor with immediate effect. It has also been recommended on the appointment of a legal advisor and the preparation of a restructuring program by the Technical Committee on International Financial Facilities. The other proposals were the identifying of specialist teams to assist the Minister of Finance and to enhance confidence by overcoming supply obstructions. The Advisory Committee further proposes to take the necessary short and long-term measures to strengthen the refinancing process and to stabilize the economy and direct it in the proper path. Sri Lanka is also experiencing the shocks of economic turmoil, like many other countries in the world. The foreign exchange crisis is the biggest problem. The Advisory Council has also expressed hope of overcoming the economic setbacks within a short period through appropriate management techniques. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and ministers, including Basil Rajapaksa and government officials, were also present on the occasion.
Now, Mahanayaka Theros of the Malwatu and Asgiri chapters reiterate on the importance of preparing a plan for sustainable development through convening of an all-party conference of local and foreign intellectuals. A letter based on 13 facts prepared by the Mahanayaka Theros was handed over to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The letter has been directed under the signatures of Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter Most Venerable Tibbatuwave Sri Sumangala Thero and Mahanayaka of the Asgiri chapter Most Venerable Warakagoda Jnanaratna Thero. The Venerable Theros have pointed out on the need on the formulation of a national policy which grants relief to the people. They have also made proposals on implementing development projects based on the priority list to eliminate the foreign exchange crisis, reducing the cost of living and to design a local economic model. The other proposals include granting relief to the agricultural industry and the farmers. The Mahanayaka Theros have also pointed out on the need to implement the law sternly against fraudulent traders who are attempting to create an artificial shortage of essential consumer items. They also have elaborated on plans to encourage investments and to enhance foreign remittances through the Transparent Economic Plan. Other proposals in the letter included the need to establish an export-oriented economy, as well as on the restructuring of state debt, granting relief and low-income earners and prevention of wastage frauds and misuse of resources. The Mahanayaka Theros in their statement have also extended their pleasure and commendations to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa over the President's far-sighted vision to safeguard the sovereignty of the nation. The Askiri Malwatu Mahanayakatheros also stress on the fullest commitment of all members of parliament to assist the government in its efforts to rebuild the economy, disregarding all differences at this crucial moment.
Moving on to further stories, Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Shi Zhenhong, says China is continuously engaged in the program to extend financial support to Sri Lanka. The Chinese government points out that it is considering the possibility of providing financial allocations, including a $2.5 billion loan to the country. The Chinese envoy at a media briefing in Colombo today said that China is not prepared at any instance to take undue advantage from the problems faced by Sri Lanka at present. Chinese ambassador Shi Zhenhong has presided over the media briefing organized by the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka.
I believe that at the moment the Sri Lankan people indeed face a lot of difficulties and challenges, but if we look at the history, I believe these difficulties could be overcome. We are always very confident about the Sri Lankan economy, the Sri Lankan people, and the future of the Sri Lankan nation. Regarding the concerns and worries from the Sri Lankan side on bilateral FTA, we believe that the two sides could sit down and all the experts could discuss them. I think it is up to the experts from the two countries that settle the details of the FTA agreement. So we believe that there is no reasonable reason for the Sri Lankan side to worry a lot. As two friendly nations, China and Sri Lanka have got very close negotiations on financial cooperation. We believe that through our friendly discussions, we will surely find a suitable way for the Sri Lankan friends to overcome the current difficulties.
Now, the Litro Gas Company says that supplying of gas is being carried out continuously without making any room for shortages. Meanwhile, the Public Utilities Commission says that a power cut of several hours will be enforced tomorrow as well. The Litro Gas Company says that more than 100,000 gas cylinders were released to the market yesterday as well. It has issued nearly 300,000 gas cylinders in the past 3 days alone. The Litro Gas Company further says there have been attempts to create artificial increases in gas prices. The company reiterates that it has not increased the prices of its products. The company also requests the consumers to inform the nearest police station of gas dealers who have increased the prices. The Litro Gas Company says another ship carrying 3,500 metric tons of gas is scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka tomorrow. The Litro Gas Company has distributed gas cylinders to the residents of Ratgama yesterday at the Ratgama public grounds. The Public Utilities Commission says power discontinuations will be carried out for a duration of 3 hours and 40 minutes in the P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W zones tomorrow. The Commission also says that in other zones a 5-hour power cut will be enforced. Minister Dilum Amunugama says a train fare revision will have to be carried out. Minister Dilum Amunugama said that a meeting was scheduled to have been conducted this afternoon regarding train fare revisions. The minister added that they have amended bus fares when there was a 55 rupee increase of fuel prices. Accordingly, a 15% surcharge was enforced. As a result, the minimum of charge of increased by only 3 rupees. The railway fuel cost is 3 kilometers per litre. For bus transport, The fuel cost is 8 and 10 kilometers per litre. Most of the train travellers are season card holders. The total fuel cost will not be placed on the passengers. The aim is to cover only the fuel expenses.
හැබැයි එහෙම දුවන එකක් 175ට නෙමෙයි තියෙන්නේ බස් ගාස්තුවෙන් 3න් එකකට තමයි දැන් තියෙන්නේ වැඩියෙන් දුම්රිය ගමන් කරන්නේ සීසන් තියන අය ඒ ගාය යන්නේ ඒකෙකුත් 3න් එකක ගාස්තුව. එතකොට බැලූ බැල්මට පාඩුයි කියලා කිව්වට සහන සේවයක් හැටියට ජනතාව ප්‍රවාහනය කිරීම හැටියට බලපුවම පාඩුවක් කියලා කියන්න බෑ. හැබැයි ඒ සහනේ යම් ප්‍රමාණයකින් අපිට අඩුම තරමේ ඉන්ධන මිල පියවා ගැනීමටවත් හැකි වෙන ආකාරයට සංශෝධනය කරන්න වෙනවා. ඒ කෙසේ වෙතත් අපි මේ මුළු බරම ජනතාව පිට පටවන්න සූදානම් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඊට අවශ්‍ය අවම ඉන්ධන වියදමවත් පියවා ගැනීමට පුළුවන් වෙන ආකාරයේ අවම සංශෝධනයකට යන්න තමයි අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage says production of organic fertilizer requirement for the upcoming Yalla season has already been completed on a district basis. Therefore, the minister requests farmers to engage in cultivation activities without having unnecessary fears. He has made these remarks at a media briefing at the Ministry of Agriculture today. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage said that some shortcomings had taken place on the part of the government during the last Maha season, when the government had turned to green agriculture. The minister has admitted that they were not able to dispatch fertilizer stocks to certain locations on time. The minister also said that the State Minister of Agriculture was engaged in a 6-month full-time study on the problem and made necessary recommendations. He further said that the President has also extended the assistance of the Sri Lanka Army in these endeavours. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage further said that they want to inform the farmers that there is no need to entertain undue fears in this connection. He also said that there are organic manure producers on the district level who supervise the operations. The minister further said that they are hoping to cultivate 500,000 hectares of land in the Yalla season like in the last Maha season. The minister added that the government has granted permission for the importation of chemical fertilizer for other types of crops. He also said that insecticides could also be purchased from the market. Minister Alutgamage further said the government is extending subsidies only in the case of the application of organic fertilizer. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage has also stated that the Paddy Marketing Board has purchased 70,000 metric tons of paddy after a period of 7 years. There had been attempts on price increases even at the time of purchasing. He also said that he has proposed to the cabinet to bring a controlled price for rice. The minister also said that they are hoping to take out all rice stocks from the 1st of April. The government is able to provide rice at a low cost. However, some quantity of rice will also be imported. The anticipated guaranteed price is 145 rupees per kilo. Currently, the price of rice has gone to 170 to 180 rupees in the market. The minister has also expressed the possibility of providing a kilo of Nadu rice for a price ranging from 140 to 145 rupees per kilo.
Now we momently deviate from local news to bring you some stories which have made headlines globally. A Chinese passenger plane with 132 people on board has crashed into a forested hillside in southern China. The China Eastern Airline Boeing 737-800 was flying from Kunming to Guangzhou when it plunged to earth in Guangxi province and caught fire. Footage taken by local villagers shared on Chinese social media and by state broadcasters showed fire and smoke from the crash and plane debris on the ground. The number of casualties and reason for the crash are not yet known. Rescuers have seen no signs of survivors. Chinese airlines generally have a good safety record, with the last major accident took place 12 years ago. The crash has caused shock in China, where President Xi Jinping has ordered an immediate investigation to determine the cause. China's Civil Aviation Administration has commenced investigations over the incident. China Eastern Airlines has reportedly grounded all its 737s. Flight tracking data suggested the plane lost height rapidly from its cruising altitude before plummeting to the ground. More than 600 emergency responders are said to be at the crash site. Firefighters reached the scene first and managed to extinguish the blaze in the hills caused by crash. The state-owned carrier is one of China's big three airlines, along with China Southern and Air China.
And now we'll take a look into the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Ukraine has ignored a demand from Russia to give up the city of Mariupol, with the Russian offensive in Ukraine entering its 26th day. Moscow's forces use long-range missiles at cities and military bases, and Ukrainian forces attempt to sever the supply lines. Russia has urged Ukrainian forces in the port city of Mariupol to lay down their arms and surrender in exchange for safe passage out of town. But officials in Kiev immediately rejected the offer as out of question. Mariupol has suffered some of the heaviest bombardments since Russia's advances on Ukraine. Many of the city's 400,000 people are trapped, while city officials say at least 2,300 people have died from the attacks. Moscow's call for surrender came hours after Ukrainian authorities said the Russian military bombed an art school in Mariupol that was sheltering hundreds of people. There was no immediate word on casualties in the school attack. At least 925 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since the conflict began almost a month ago. The UN Human Rights Office, with more than 3.1 million refugees forced to flee Ukraine over the past 4 weeks and millions internally displaced within the country, many people remain trapped in areas of escalating conflict, with essential services disrupted or unable to meet their basic needs, including food, water and medicines. Governments should ensure that the conflict in Ukraine does not worsen the food crisis in the Middle East and North Africa and protect the right to affordable, adequate food for everyone, Human Rights Watch today. Both Ukraine and Russia are leading exporters of agricultural products to many Middle Eastern and North African countries, and disruptions related to the war are already exacerbating already rising food prices and deepening poverty. The Black Sea area affected by the Ukrainian crisis exports at least 12% of the food calories traded in the world. Ukraine has 1/3 of the world's most fertile soil, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, and 45% of its exports are agricultural related. Russia is the world's largest supplier of wheat and one of the biggest producers of fertilizers, and the crisis could also disrupt the supply. Egypt, the world's largest wheat importer, is especially vulnerable, as half of its import comes from Russia and another 30% from Ukraine. Moscow has accused Kiev of stalling peace talks by making proposals unacceptable for Russia. Ukraine has said it is willing to negotiate, but will not surrender or accept Russian ultimatums. The Kremlin said today that peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have not yet made any significant progress.
Now on news back at home, presentation of the post of Chief Adakarana Sangha Nayaka of Southern Lanka with the honorary title Saddharmakirti Sri Dhammaratana Thera Prajna Tissa to Venerable Atapattu Kande Ananda Thero through a Sri Sannaspatra has taken place at the BMICH in Colombo yesterday. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa have also attended the ceremony. The Karaka Sangha Sabha, headed by the Mahanayaka and Anunayaka Theros of the Malwatha chapter, has presented the Sangha Nayaka position with the honorary title in recognition of the Sasana religious and social services rendered by Venerable Atapattu Kande Anandathera. Anunayaka of the Malwatha chapter, Venerable Dr. Niyangoda Vijitasarathire, Dr. Niyangoda Vijita Thero has presided over the ceremony. The Sri Sannaspatra was presented to the new Mahanayaka Thero by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has handed over the Vijitapata. Unveiling of the felicitation volume based on the biography of the Mahanayaka Thero and presentation of the several books comprising articles written by the Mahanayaka Thero have also taken place on the occasion. The Mahasangha, comprising of 3 Nikayas, President Secretary Gamini Senarath and President Chief Advisor Lalit Veeratunga have also graced the occasion.
The Western Province Education Department says that the final term tests in the grade 9, 10 and 11 of schools in the Western Province will be conducted according to schedule. Accordingly, the question papers are being processed on the provincial level for grade 9 and 10, which are being printed. The question papers for grade 11 in the Western Province are also being printed by the Department of Education, and the exams will be conducted as scheduled. Around 500,000 students in 904 secondary schools in grades 6 and 11 in the Western Province have already sat for exams.
The Sri Lanka Girl Guides movement completes 105 years of existence today. The first commemoration flag issued in this connection was presented to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at the Temple Trees today. The flag was pinned on the Prime Minister by the Assistant Chief Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Girl Guides movement, Nirmali William. A book on the history of the Girl Guides movement was also handed over to the Prime Minister. The World Girl Guides movement had commenced in the year 1910 under the leadership of Ms. Olive Baden Powell. Sri Lanka had received World Girl Guides movement membership on the 21st of March 1917. Currently, around 70,000 Girl Guides are connected to the Sri Lankan Girl Guides movement. The group includes Girl Guides with special needs as well. Prime Minister's Secretary Anuradha Dissanayake, International Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Girl Guides movement Nadika Gunasekara and Girl Guides representing numerous age categories have also graced the occasion. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has presided over the opening of a 4-storied newly constructed multi-purpose building at the Mahara Pradesh Sabha today. The construction cost of the project was 100 million rupees.
Two new commemorative coins with the face value of 20 rupees each were issued to mark the 150th anniversary of the medical faculty of the University of Colombo and the first census of the population and housing in Sri Lanka. Vice-Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Professor Chandrika N. Vijayratna, and the Director General of the Department of Census and Statistics, PMP Anurukumara, presented the commemorative coins to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. Central Bank Governor Ajit Niwad Cabral, Deputy Governor NW GR Dhammika Nanayakara and Superintendent of Currency KM Abekon were also present on the occasion.
The Ministry of Tourism has decided to grant a grace period to Development Authority, institutes registered under the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority in the payment of the tourism development tax. Accordingly, a 2-year relief period is scheduled to be extended without fines in the recovery of arrears by the authority for a period commencing from 1st of April 2019 to 31st of December 2021. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the relevant proposal has been submitted to the Cabinet of Ministers. The decision has been taken in consideration of the difficulties experienced by the tourism industry as a result of the Easter attack and the corona pandemic. Although Sri Lanka's tourism industry is gradually returning to normalcy, a grace period has been extended by taking into consideration the fact that a certain period is required for the full restoration of the industry. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga also says that the number of tourists who have arrived in the island during this year has exceeded to 250,000. The Tourism Ministry says in past 19 days alone, 67,898 tourists have visited the country. A special feature has been that most of the tourists have arrived from France, Poland, Kazakhstan and the United States, Canada and the Czech Republic. The January of this year, the number of foreign tourist arrivals amounted to 82,327 and in February, the figure has increased to 96,507. Now, today marks the 158th Police Day. It was 41 years ago on the 21st of March in 1981 that the commemoration of police heroes had commenced for the first time. The Sri Lanka Police Service was established as a statutory body on the 3rd of September 1866. However, a day of commemoration had been named only after 115 years of the establishment of the police service. The first police officer was killed in operational duties on the 21st of March 1864. On this day, Police Constable Sahan had sacrificed his life in the attempts to apprehend Uthuwankande Saradiyal. It was retired DIG Tilak Iddamalgoda who had proposed 25th 1st of March as the most appropriate day for the commemoration of the police service. It has also been reported that 3,143 police officials have laid down their lives up to now in the tasks of fighting against terrorism, apprehending of narcotics and controlling of other social evils, as well as in road accidents and in normal duties in maintaining law and order. 2,598 had laid down their lives in the battlefields. 545 of them were killed while engaging in daily routine. 1,567 police officials had become disabled due to the engagement in war operations. Many police officials were killed during the 1988-89 period of disturbances as well. The police headquarters further says 35 police officials had sacrificed their lives during the April 1971 insurrection. However, the most tragic event in the police history was this stimulus shooting to death of 417 unarmed police officials by the Tiger organization in the eastern province on the 11th of June 1990. The Sri Lanka police is fulfilling its prominent responsibility of extending support to the other armed forces in the fight against terrorists, in safeguarding forward defense circles and also in safeguarding the lives of the civilians. The Police Special Task Force had been established as an auxiliary force in the operations against terrorists. The depriving of a police hero is an irreparable loss to the police family. Yet the Sri Lanka police is always fulfilling its duties on behalf of the society with great reverence. The main police commemoration ceremony was conducted at the Police Field Task Force headquarters in Colombo today. DIG Ranmal Kurituaku had presided over the event. The chief invitee and senior officials as well as closest relatives of fallen police officials were engaged in placing floral tributes. Floral tributes have also been paid to the memorial in Mavanala this morning. This memorial had been established to commemorate the first police constable who died in action. DIG in charge of K Golf Division, Chandana Alahakon, has presided over the event. Senior Superintendent of Police KB Kirtiratna and other officials also took part in the event. The first recorded police death in history, Police Constable Sahan was killed by a single bullet fired by an accomplice of Saradia, named Mamle Marika, in the attempts to arrest Tuankande Saradia. Floral tributes were also conducted in front of the statue of the gallant policeman at the premises of the Superintendent of Police office in Kegol today. The reason being the largest number of police officials sacrificing their lives in the Kegol district during the period of the April 1971 rebellion.
Deputy General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath says that the public should adhere to health protective measures to prevent a possible infection of COVID-19 variants emerging from other countries. He made his remarks while speaking to the media today.
At present, there are reports about new variants emerging, especially in Korea, China and India. And there are outbreaks of disease in different localities in these countries, and there are so many measures in these countries to prevent the spread of the disease. And theoretically, we cannot say that the new variants will not into Sri Lanka, because almost all other variants also entered into Sri Lanka someday or the other. So therefore, what is most important is to ensure that all citizens of this country are adhering to the health guidelines and making sure that we are not behaving in a manner conducive of spreading the disease. And also it is important that everyone should get their appropriate vaccination done to face these new variants, as the vaccination itself will protect yourself from getting any complications, and risk of dying will be reduced, and also it will prevent or reduce the risk of spreading the disease also from you to some the other family members and the others. So therefore, make sure that despite, even though the numbers of cases reported in Sri Lanka has gone down to a certain extent, still the situation is not under fully control. So therefore, everyone should adhere to the health guidelines and they should get their appropriate vaccination also.
On the global update of the pandemic, the city of Jilin will lock down some 4.5 million people for 3 days starting today to help curb the spread of China's biggest coronavirus outbreak. China has imposed stay-at-home orders on millions more people in the country's northeast as it tries to tackle its biggest coronavirus outbreak in 2 years. The country has largely kept the virus at bay since it brought to heel its initial outbreak in 2022 using targeted lockdowns, mass testing and travel restrictions. The Omicron strain of COVID-19 has taken hold in multiple cities across China. More than 4,000 new infections were reported across China yesterday, with 2/3 in Jilin province, which borders Russia and North Korea. China reported its first 2 COVID-19 deaths in more than a year. The deaths both in Jilin province bring the country's coronavirus death toll to 4,638 since the start of the pandemic. UK Health Security Agency bosses lodged another 90,349 positive tests, to an increase of 23.9% on last Friday. Britain's COVID resurgence shows no signs of slowing down yet, with cases jumping by another quarter and both hospitalizations and deaths creeping up. The climbing case rates, which have soared to pandemic heights in Scotland, where strict mask and isolation rules remain in place, have also been blamed on the emergence of an even more transmissible type of Omicron named BA2. We'll be back with more international news after this break. On foreign news, at least 6 people have been killed after a car drove into a crowd of carnival goers in southern Belgium. The incident happened in the small town of Strepcy-Barbecue, close to south of the capital, Brussels. The car drove at high speed into dozens of people who were preparing to take part in a traditional parade yesterday morning. Around 40 people were injured and several are in serious condition. The exact circumstances of the attack are being investigated, but police said a terror attack had been ruled out.
La vitesse, c'est ce que tous les témoins pointent du doigt, une rue en longue ligne droite et la catastrophe au bout. Et Gilles,
On more foreign news, at least 12 soldiers were killed yesterday in eastern Burkina Faso by suspected jihadists, the 6th attack of its kind in the country in 10 days. A security patrol was attacked by presumed jihadists and 10 soldiers have been killed. Around 15 youths were kidnapped by armed individuals during an attack last week. Burkina Faso has seen an uptick in violence after a period of relative calm following a military junta taking power in January. In total, 23 civilians and 25 security personnel have been killed over the last 10 days. Burkina Faso has been struggling with jihadist attacks since 2015, when militants linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group began mounting cross-border raids from Mali. In January alone, 160,000 fled their homes, a group of international charities said last Thursday. That's all the news for today. Join us again at the same time tomorrow. Good night.